It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 36, Power of the Daleks. It's the power of the Daleks breaking into your heart. Who's inside? It's a Dalek, and inside the Dalek is a tiny weirdo who loves you.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, Toby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
Well, the TARDIS is more than a machine. It's like a person, you see.
Resulting reaction. Describe it. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. I am your host, Eric Grissom, and Dan is
I'm your other host, Dan
I never know if you're supposed to say,
no, I'm going to do it.
I'm your host. Or, saying co-host is stupid, but it's our show. It's both of our shows.
Yeah, so we are both the host.
Do you always say co-host, or do you say, these are like podcast, hashtag podcast problems? Is that a lot has happened, Dan. This is 2017. This is our first show since our last show, which was in the past, and we've lost many celebrities. We had George Michael, R.I.P. We had Carrie Fisher, R.I.P.
Are we going through all of them?
It was a lot. Like, there was a lot of pain and suffering sort of smushed in since our last show. Not that 2016 was sort of a cavalcade of horror.
Yeah.
But it seems like right up until the very last minute, it was...
it just kept coming. It just, kept
so
like a train
it's just
wreck
hard to
that just
believe.
didn't stop.
Like, the last time we talked about Doctor Who, we were so much younger, and now we're jaded. I spent this morning looking for gasoline. I got shoulder pads. I've been fitted for, my feather headdress or something. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You already had some, so it was just really...
I was already ready. I think, when we go to that post-apocalyptic landscape, it should go straight for the,
Feather mohawk.
Yeah,
that's the way to go.
I don't think there should be anything really in between.
Mm-mm. I think that's pretty accurate. Hey, so in the meantime, between our last episode and this episode,
we had something else Doctor Who thing.
There was a new Doctor Who, like a new Doctor Who. So that was awesome.
So very briefly, this is the Christmas episode. This is the last days of Ambrose Bierce. That's not what it's called.
Nope.
What is the name?
The Return of Dr. Mysterio.
The Return of Dr. Mysterio. Let's talk. We have a lot of stuff to cover today, so we won't do too in-depth, but just
and this is a classic Doctor Who review podcast and not a new Doctor Who review. But
this episode.
Yeah.
Did I take notes? I don't think I
didn't take notes either because I just watched it. I was just like, hey, we're going to...
I saw it once.
It's so different to watch a show that is just 50 minutes long and not like 24 minutes broken up over 4 or 5 episodes. It's kind of... I forgot what it's like to watch
It's hard even
new
to
Doctor
look back
Who.
on it because I remember watching it and I think I texted you.
Yeah.
Like, I have stuff to say. I was basically mixed. I had mixed feelings on it. It was okay. I didn't really love it. It was right on the borderline for me of just being really kind of corny and stupid.
But I think
that sounds worse than I really felt about it.
So I went back and I watched the last one, The Husband's River Song, while I was waiting for the new one to actually be released. So the night before I watched that. And then I watched this one. I feel like The Husband's River Song was just a stronger episode overall.
Yeah,
but,
I definitely agree
that's
with you.
because it had River was a good thing. I like it, but I feel like a lot of the Christmas episodes tend to be more kid-oriented. I mean, I know Doctor Who overall is generally a kid's show, but I feel like because it's the holiday special, it just ends up being a little more... You just have to go with it a little bit.
Yeah, I also like...
I mean, I liked it a lot. It just, it really is like...
I'm trying to remember. It was kind of like... I don't know. Like, the thing... First off, I kind of like a little Christmas in my Christmas episodes, and there was really nothing about it other than the beginning where he thinks it's Santa Claus. Whatever, that's fine. And they've done that certainly many times.
Yeah.
But it was just too much like... Just like a stupid sitcom thing. He's trying to be two things at once, and I don't know. I already feel like I'm being way too negative because I didn't like it.
I know you're not like a superhero comic guy, but you're a comic book guy.
Right,
So
and I
what
do
did
like
you think about
superheroes,
like this?
but, like, yeah.
No, I know. You don't
You're
really
right.
write
I'm
comic books
kind of-
about superheroes. So, but what did you think about the combination of? I mean, it was very obviously. It's just not even something you need to mention, but it was inspired by comic books to the point where there were even like shots where it was split into really kind of subtle, but split into comic book panels.
Right.
As you were watching it, which was kind of cool, and the whole like origin story, and there were a lot of references to like Superman and Batman, and like the whole like it was very much of that genre. So for
It was very much
coming
like
from that world, like
comic book. It was like the Richard Donner Superman comic book world, film world, which is all fine. Again,
yeah.
The thing with comic books and superheroes, and I certainly like superhero comic books. I write comic books. I'm not a huge fan of superhero comic books as films, because there is like that like fine line where there's always like this voice in my head, or when I'm like, well, this is kind of dumb too. Like, why are these people dressed up in costumes? Like, if there's like that thread, you don't want to pull that thread. You know what I'm talking about? If you pull that thread, you're like, this is really dumb. What have we done as a society? Like, you know, the biggest movie right now is whatever, Avengers or whatever. You know, and maybe our parents, the biggest movie may have been The Godfather, and maybe there's something.
Those are qualitatively the same thing. They're not the same thing.
But
I gotcha. Yeah.
Again, I already can feel the negativity. I'm not trying to be negative because I did certainly like it. It was not my favorite.
No, it wasn't my favorite Christmas.
Far. Wasn't my favorite Stephen Moffat story. Looking back on it now, trying to think of the parts that I liked, there weren't that many. And I
like the parts with the kid, like the whole time travel thing, going back and forth with him as a child throughout his life as the superhero's dealing with the fact that he's like that was pretty cool. So I mean, it had those elements of who that I like a lot.
And why
it also had a little bit of the continuation of the overall mythos with the fact that this is 24 years later, which is right after he left River for their last night together, which is 24 years long, which is kind of cool. So he's still dealing with that a little bit. So I mean, those are the things that I like about it.
It was cool, and I love that Dr. Mysterio as a name is awesome, and I heard that came from Peter Capaldi. When I guess the translation of Doctor Who, or when Doctor Who is in another country, I don't remember is it South America somewhere or something?
It's either Spain or Mexico, but
okay,
Dr. Mysterio.
It's called Dr. Mysterio, and he kept saying that like he liked it, so they ended up creating that character, which was cool. It's all good.
So, what do you think about these villains? That they were in the Husbands of River song as well. The ones with the heads that pull apart and they're just kind of brains that sit inside another. What do you think of them? Like as creature design, I like the design a lot. I think the idea is okay. There's like sentient brains that just need to go into different bodies. I feel like we've seen something similar before, but okay. The design's cool. What I couldn't stand, I'm asking you a question just so I can answer it myself. The thing I couldn't stand was that the main villain guy kept the gun in his head. A pocket would be so much easier. Why did he keep opening his head to take out a gun?
Hold on, I got it here somewhere.
It's not like he needed to get past a metal detector.
Old license plates, like it's the shark in Jaws that they cut open. The wrong shark. Yeah. The other thing, like, and we can jump off of it because again, we get a bunch of other stuff. We both watched it once. This whole end of the year again was very stressful. You know, obviously we talked about on the bigger picture, but also in my life and everything. So there was things all going on and whatever. So I probably didn't give it the attention it deserved when I was watching it. But even saying all of that, looking back now, I can't think of too many like scenes or moments where I'm like, oh yeah, that was something I would think. Not. You know, we talked about our memories being terrible, the both of us, where we can't remember what we just reviewed. But I really don't remember many. It
wasn't a standout
scenes. I certainly like the back and forth with them at dinner and things like that. But the characters also, I mean, they seem kind of shallow.
Do you like that Nardal is in it and is going to continue to probably in it in the next?
Yes,
season?
I like what's his Matt Lucas? Is that his name?
Yeah, Matt Lucas from Little Britain.
Right, Little Britain. I was a fan of Little Britain, so I always like having him, and I know we've seen him before.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming we're like. the way he's sort of in this story, he's just in this story, and there's no, like, you know, if you have not seen him before, you're like, who is this guy and how is he related to this whole thing?
Right.
I'm assuming in the future we're going to see more of those connections and how, right?
I don't know.
I took it that way, because it was just like all of a sudden he was there, and I'm like, oh, is he friends with the superhero? But no, and I don't know.
He's traveling with the Doctor and kind of keeping him company since he's kind of
is that official that he is a? Because I saw like the trailer for the whole season coming, and he seems to be
something
a big
to
part
do.
of it.
I saw it on Twitter. Someone was saying how they replied Matt Lucas and said like they can't stand Nardole on the Christmas special, and he's like, oh well, I just filmed like 6 more episodes, so enjoy.
I like him. I'm fine with him, and I like I like having two companions and having 3 people.
I feel the same. I love that dynamic. Could be really fun.
All right, so that said,
anyway,
it sounds like we both liked it. Maybe you liked it a little bit more than I did.
Yeah.
I'm just a negative person, so it all.
I'm just happy to have a new Doctor Who. That makes me happy in and of itself. It's a Christmas special, so my expectations are always a little bit lowered. But at the same time, it's like, hey, it's new, so it's great. Not one of my favorites, but I'm ready for the new season, so that's great.
Yeah.
All right,
so let's do a little bit of stuff. I know this is our big Power of the Daleks episode, and we've asked people for feedback. We've gotten feedback on the show. We are going to read that feedback after we do our review. So, but there are other things to cover, namely
up front
Dan
here,
starting the Twitter, which you may have seen. Dan has created a Twitter.
So now we have an actual Twitter handle. It's at TODWS. So sorry, I said that wrong. It's at TODW Show.
Yeah, we tried. Dan
there's
tried
no
many
permutation.
Different things till he found one available.
I had like 20 different. None of them worked out.
Like,
so
it was either a character limit issue or the thing was taken. But yeah, Dan
if you follow either of us, we're retweeting from that account as well, so you can just follow it directly.
And,
awesome.
Pretty much, so anybody listening, it's Dan. Dan's running that.
It's mostly
Twitter
me.
account, so
Eric's got the Facebook side.
I tend to do Facebook, and I feel like that's probably a little bit of our personalities. I don't like Twitter as much. I could go on Twitter and be like, hey, I spent 4 years working on this comic. Here it is. Nobody gives a damn. But if I post it on Facebook, it's like, oh, people actually like. I feel like there's people that like me on Facebook, and I feel like on Twitter there's people that are following me either because they think they can get something from me, or it's just a spam bot of some kind. You know, it's. I feel alienated more. It doesn't feel like a real community in quotes.
But this is mostly just for news, and we'll do like we did with this when I was calling for some feedback, which we got. Thank you, folks. But that sort of thing, just news, and I'll post stupid GIFs there as well.
Yeah.
But we did get 2 new iTunes reviews, bringing our total to 15. Thank you guys. That's super awesome. So the first one we got from Dr. N Dub. Sure. It says the only classic Who podcast you need. So thank you for that. I've been searching for a new Doctor Who podcast for a while.
There's like another classic Doctor Who podcast that if you search on iTunes, and this shows the wisdom of Apple, and it comes up first, I think, 2 dead links. There's like 2, you know what I'm talking about? Because I know you've looked at it.
I know what you're talking about because you tell me about it every week.
Podcast, and you at home could do this. It comes up with like the first thing is some thing, doesn't even have a icon. The person doesn't even have a thumbnail image. And it comes up, and there's 2 links, and neither of them work. But it's there, and it's still taking a higher spot than us. Sorry, I'm bitter, but go on.
He's a little upset by the fact that you can't really find us as easily. I'm just saying, Apple, you should
move us up the rankings.
Because we're actually producing new content on a regular basis. I get you. But anyway, so maybe these reviews will actually help people find us. But so I'm not going to bother reading these because we have so much to get through. But thank you, Dr. N Dub. The other one was from Blake7 that says, entertaining podcast. Both of these are 5-star reviews. They both mention how we have a great rapport with each other, and et cetera, et cetera. Hey, it's true. All we're doing is we're watching these episodes and then discussing them in real time together. I don't know what he thought about this. He doesn't know what I'm thinking about this. So let's find out what we thought about Power of the Daleks. Ready to hit that button?
Yep. Whoop.
Extermination. Very good. Nails need growing.
Now look, the Doctor always wore this, so if you're him, it should fit now, shouldn't it? There, that settles it.
I'd like to see a butterfly fit into a chrysalis case after it spread its wings.
Then you did change.
Life depends on change and renewal.
Oh, so that's it. You've been renewed, have you?
I've been renewed, have I? That's it.
I've been renewed. It's part of the TARDIS. Without it, I couldn't survive. Come here. Come here. The doctor kept a diary, didn't he?
Yes.
Thought so. I wonder where. I wonder where.
Very different, Dr. Ben.
Yeah, maybe. Just where do we stand, though?
All right, this is The Power of the Daleks. This is directed by Charles Barry of the Charles Barrys and written by David Whitaker, which is interesting. It's not the Dalek story, not written by Terry Nation, but I guess we'll talk about that later. Mm-hmm. This is the third serial of the fourth season, 1966. After defeating the Cybermen, the Doctor collapses and transforms into the second Doctor to the surprise and confusion of his companions, Ben and Polly. Now, in his new form, the TARDIS and the Doctor land on the planet Vulcan, where the Doctor witnesses the murder of an examiner who was sent from Earth to investigate a human colony on the planet. The Doctor and his companions, assuming the role of the investigator and his team, uncover a plot involving a secret rebellion and the resurrection of the Daleks. Dan, what did you think of... Well, and I should say, this was a completely missing serial. They recently... I don't know how recently, but within the last year or whatever, they began the process of restoring it based on photographs and stuff that they had and whatever remaining production pieces they have to create an animated version of it, because they still have the audio.
So I think the audio actually came from fans had recorded it. I think that's where some of that came from as well. I think so. Hey, guys, we didn't do our research.
I reviewed the story. I did not do much research as far as how they put this together. Sure. I know they've done this before with other missing serials, but this is a very famous one that people all...
I mean, it's pivotal. This is the first regeneration. This is amazing that it was lost.
Patrick Troughton story ever that most people hadn't seen.
And no one,
so I guess... chance to see it.
You know what? I really wish we had done a little more research, but
No, that's important.
But for people seeing... I'll get to what I think about this, but for the significance of the episode, it's the first regeneration. I wonder if people contemporaneously had any freaking clue what was going on.
No, I think it was just like War of the Worlds. People just started freaking out and robbing liquor stores. They didn't understand what was going on. They were just like, "What? There's aliens in New Jersey."
I'm pretty sure in War of the Worlds, no one robbed liquor stores either. That was the Hindenburg disaster. That was the Hindenburg disaster. People
John
robbed
said,
and looted.
And he was not a criminal.
Anyway, so what did I think of this episode? As a story, I liked it very much. I thought this was
I guess
really,
what
really
we're
cool
really
story.
saying is, what did you think of the animation?
Oh my god, I hated this animation so much. First of all, let me say, kudos to the people who actually did it. I think that it must have been a very difficult job to take the remaining stills and the segments of video that they did have to do a reconstruction of it. I saw a little interview with the head artist who oversaw this, and it was not a shot-for-shot remake, which I'm sure you can tell based on the way some of these shots are done. Like, some of them feel kind of modern. I couldn't imagine how they would actually do them in 1966. So it's not a shot-for-shot. It's more of a interpretation in a lot of cases.
Especially, like, towards the end, they have, like, that massive explosion of all of the Daleks that clearly it wasn't looking like that when it originally aired. It's just...
There's some really tight...
Over and over and over.
Yeah, there's some tight, interesting framing shots. There's some, pulling close and then pull out to a crane overhead shot. I'm sure those weren't done in the original. So, right, so it's a recreation. So that said, the fact that they put it together, they were able to do this, I'd much rather have it than not have it. But that said, this animation style...
Right, the animation style was very hard. It was very clunky. That as stills, like, to me, this would have been a much better graphic novel or comic book if they did, like, a miniseries or something of this script as a comic and adapted it for that. That would have worked. I didn't mind the individual art style and the heavy lines and whatever. But the way that the animation worked, it was very Uncanny Valley, too, with how they sort of looked very photorealistic, but they didn't move as if a real person would move. At all. It felt like C-Lab 2021, if you're familiar also with that.
One of my favorite shows ever.
Yeah, I love that show.
And I thought about that as well, but I preferred that style to this. So this has a weird... Okay, first of all, I don't like the art style. So I get your point of like in stills, maybe I would actually like it better as stills, but I don't actually overall like it very much. You lose a lot of. Well, I'll come back to it later, but I feel like I didn't really get a lot of what was happening. Like facial expressions, I think so much is done, especially with Troughton. So much is done on the face as opposed to in the dialogue.
Yeah, and it feels too
so
artificial.
I miss a lot of that.
It feels too much like it was created with the computer. Like when you have art like that looks so vector-like, like it just feels like you're watching animated clip art instead of something that would have been drawn by an artist.
It looked like what I would have done around 2000 when I was doing Flash animations, just learning how to do Flash animations. It was all straight tweens for the motion. So what I mean is, as much as the characters, they tried to make them look as realistic within that art style as possible. Okay, that's fine. I think it's more aesthetic than it is technical. They did a fine job for what they were going for. But the movements themselves felt very computer. Animated, but not in a realistic way. It was like paper dolls being animated by a computer. So you'd have one joint, and the way that like the arm swings out,
like the legs are all still stiff, but they're moving up and down.
Oh, what actually bothered me the most is like the women when they would talk, like Janley or Polly, when they would talk, their head would move, and the hair would like it would move as though it was a spring, kind of like they're moving, and the hair would move after it. Like that's not how things move at all.
So that was definitely a watching curve or whatever. I don't know what word, that you had to get over. Like the first two episodes were very hard.
Especially, I would say also because
watch it.
Because the story hadn't really... I don't think the story kicks into gear until the second or third episode anyway, really. Yes. So it's those two things combined. Beyond like the actual regeneration part of it and the novelty of seeing what's happening in the first 10 minutes or so, after the first 10 minutes, that end of the first episode, second episode...
Once you can sort of... And that's happened to me. Like once I got into it, like once I was like used to it, it was great. Like I liked sort of the conspiracy stuff going on, and towards the end when the doctor completely loses his mind.
Let's get to that, because I feel different about that.
People may listen to you if you just ease back a little bit on the crazy. Like you don't need to,
or you go full crazy. That's what he decided to do, and I loved it.
You never go full crazy.
Go full crazy.
So, but it made me really miss the actual story. It just, rather than being like, at least we have this, it was like, I really wish we had the real serial. Or if they really just animated it. Like if they were like, all right, let's make an animated movie. Doctor Who is big enough where you could say, let's really make something special.
It was just...
It felt like sort of budget maybe dictated some of the choices.
I wonder if that's the case, because this is Doctor Who now, and it is a huge event that they were doing this, and the show itself is gigantic, bigger than it ever was, because now with the new Who and being broadcast in all the different countries, same day type of stuff, it's huge. I think they have the budget for it. I honestly think it was just an art direction style. They just chose this art direction in the studio that is known to do it this way, and they thought that was good, and I just aesthetically disagree with that.
I don't know. But if it looked like Star Wars Rebels or something, like if it was...
Oh, I agree. I would love that.
I just don't like that photorealistic take, or when things look too much like the reference. It just doesn't feel right. I want sort of the artist's take. I want it interpreted through... I don't want to recreate reality as a 2D form. I want it filtered through an artist's sensibilities. You know what I mean? Like I
totally get it. Yeah.
And I wish they did that verse. If it was more cartoonish in that sense. I don't know.
But so on one hand, I'm saying I think that they had the budget and it was a specific art direction style that they chose. But on the other hand, it also felt really clumsy to the point where there were certain moments, I caught it at least 3 different times throughout the series, that a character popped in the minute. Like there was a half a second of a scene starts and then a character pops in or something else. Like it really felt like it was rushed, maybe, or something.
Well, that's what I mean. That's the people who did this, the budget issues. Did they not have enough money to do, like the
time or money?
Exceeded the budget. Like
maybe
they started a project and then we're just...
I hate to sound so critical about it, because I'm so glad that they did this. For us, it's amazing to be able to do a review of a quote-unquote new classic series Like, this is amazing. I'm so grateful that they did it, and I think the people who worked on it probably put everything they had into it. So I don't want to put them down for that, but for me, aesthetically, this was
Have
just
they
a bad
done
choice.
this? I feel like I read that they did this as a audio thing, right? With Tom Baker doing narration.
Oh, I don't know.
I believe that exists. Again, would have been helpful had I
Research might have been
properly,
cool,
instead of seeing it once and been like, that's something I should probably write down, and
Yep.
nope, got it now.
Let's
Now
just jump right into it.
Watching. Yep.
So another thing about this is I took a look. This is the 7th story featuring the Daleks, chronologically at this point in the show.
It's the first one not written by Terry Nation, too.
First one not by Terry Nation, and it's the first one that in chronological order that we're reviewing. This is the first time in our in our timeline of watching this.
And
we
this
skipped
is also
the first six.
first time. Is this the first time? I'm saying this is the first time, and then switching it to a question because clearly I don't know. That we know the Daleks are not robots, and they have little mutants inside of them. We see that later.
First of all, I loved that. I got so excited when they showed the little quivering organic components that squid things that went in there. I know they're human beings, whatever. I don't know, and when I was doing, I do a little bit of research, but I couldn't find any reference to, was that added in this, or did that actually exist in the original shots? Is this one of those things where they kind of went and filled in the gaps?
Show. Don't they mention it by... Yeah, there's a whole scene of them putting them in. I'm trying to think, is there dialogue that says...
In this story, there's no dialogue around when this is happening. This is when Lesterson's looking at. He's discovered that they're creating their own. Lesterson's looking from outside through a window and sees them doing this. So there's no dialogue
Crazy
at the point when this
Lesterson.
is happening. Anyway, but I loved that. That was one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is so cool. You can actually see them putting these quivering little organic
We also get two
things.
companions that we have not seen before.
That we have not seen, right?
That we have not. Yeah,
Ben and Polly.
Ben and Polly. Polly, who I immediately pretended was Nico.
Oh, yeah.
People from me. I was like,
Was it not Nico?
Nico is in this episode, of which you added a whole other. If you pretend that this was Nico's backstory. And immediately after that, she records with the Velvet Underground. And
it makes a lot more sense.
A very dark period of lots of heroin abuse in New York City.
Yeah.
To follow. But yeah, I would like to see episodes with her.
Yeah.
Him, not as much. Ben seems like such a jerk.
No, that's what I liked about him.
The first 20 minutes of this thing is just him not believing that it's the doctor and just yelling.
Okay, he's the audience surrogate, so you have to go with that. There's half of the audience is like, okay, I'm with it. This is the doctor.
Right.
I'm on board. He's the other half saying, what the heck? I want my doctor back.
Yeah,
which is the same with every regeneration.
Right, we got to talk about that too because it's huge, right? So they're switching
Amazing.
characters, and the way that they handle it, it's not within 5 minutes. No, I am the doctor. They leave it ambiguous. Like even the doctor himself is
never
referring
says it.
to William Hartnell as another person. I mean, he's talking about his previous.
Talks about him in the third person. Yeah,
I love his doctor. Like I know we are adding another Patrick Troughton episode, I believe. After we finish our current schedule, but he's just like the way he dealt with this character is so cool.
Yeah,
because he's very mischievous and he sort of plays dumb, but he's not dumb. And I don't know, it was just cool.
You see that throughout the entire episode that he does that.
Usually now, if you were to do something like that now and switch, you would either not mention it and you would just go with it, or it would be like, oh yeah, I take a different form, so the audience isn't, quote, confused, and then just... But they were like, you know what, it's going to be weird. And like, you don't even know as watching it for the first time, like, is he really... new guy? Is it the same guy?
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I liked the way he played the character a lot. Too.
Yeah.
With that button, the dumb inspector button. Like,
oh man, it looked like it just came off like a $5 hand press. That it was like an "I like Ike" campaign button, but it was official.
It just says Vulcan. Like, I was like, what is happening on this?
But going back to the regeneration, so two things that are just kind of nitpicky. Well, one's nitpicky, the other is just a question. So his clothes regenerated as well, because that's not what Hartnell was wearing. So this is he's in full on Troughton gear, and I like in the later regenerations that part of that the Doctor finding his outfit is part of him finding himself.
Hat?
Oh my gosh, that hat!
What is that Pope wear? I don't know what was going on. It was like
a witch's hat. It just kept going
Do you like
forever.
the Pope's hat? Do you also like Abe Lincoln's hat? Like, what if you had them
got the
both
hat for
together?
you. Hat store.
It was very weird. Did he have something under there? Was there a little person? I don't know. It was very weird, that whole choice of hat. But go on.
Thank you. So for me, like, the regenerated Doctor trying on outfits is him figuring out his personality, which is really cool. It was similar to what we see later, too, with Romana regenerating into Romana, too, but she takes it even further, where she's coming out in different forms.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's still, I realize, it's not until much later that they really have nailed down the canon to what a Time Lord's regeneration is like, even down to, like, how many regenerations they get. Like, they're still figuring that out. They're still kind of messing with that.
This is the first time.
This is the first time.
It was great that... I like the way that they handled it.
But the other thing that he says, the Doctor actually says that his regeneration process is part of the TARDIS, and without it, he couldn't survive.
Yes.
So he implies that he can only regenerate inside the TARDIS, which we find out later. I don't know how much later we actually find out that that's not necessarily true, because I'm thinking back to other regenerations. Well, in New Who, I guess it's really different.
We regenerate.
He falls out of the TARDIS as he's regenerating, so I'm not sure that counts.
We did it. I cannot remember.
Spearhead from space. Yeah, I think he actually opens the door and falls out because he's in the grass, and then I think that maybe that still fits.
Right, that's Troughton into Pertwee.
Yeah, what were you talking about?
I was saying Pertwee into Baker in Robot.
Oh, right. Yeah, I don't remember if he's in the TARDIS.
I don't know if he's in the TARDIS.
I don't either.
We totally watch. It doesn't matter.
Anyway, so that's fine.
That would be great if we just stopped talking and we put like 30 seconds of silence in there. If our brains exploded.
Here's where all the real research would have been.
Also, talking about this episode, like, I thought the music was awesome too. Like there
wasn't a whole lot of it, which I actually liked.
It was just kind of weird.
When they used it, it was effective.
Like a electronic horror movie. It was just a unsettling sort of music.
Yeah,
some of the cliffhangers between these were not the best. Like, some of them were just okay, the episode is over.
I really kind of liked them. There were a few that were really good.
There were a couple, but which ones did you like? Like, what? The first one is just, okay, there's Daleks here. That's
pretty dang good. So that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, although, Power of the Daleks kind of tipped it.
One of them is
going to be Daleks.
I Am Your Servant. I know.
I Am Your Servant was a good ending to that one. The third one, I think it ends with "We will get our power" or something like that. That was horrible.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, there were a few good ones and a few bad ones. What are you going to do?
I did like the whatchamacallit. The obviously we talked about the hat, but there was one line that the Doctor says where he says, "A little injustice is better than wholesale slaughter," and I believe that's one of the people is in jail or is wrongly convicted or arrested or something horrible happens, and they're like, "We got to go help him," and he's like, "Nah. A little injustice is better than wholesale slaughter," which, if you think about it, is also kind of awful. It's how horrible things happen.
Right.
Is when people let something bad happen because they're the ends for whatever.
Justifying the means.
It was just weird that is something the Doctor said when you see a guy arrested. So I thought that was worth writing down. It just felt a little odd.
Yeah.
And I feel like someone the Doctor got snubbed on a handshake in episode 3. I have the no-return handshake for Doctor in episode 3. Sad is what I wrote.
Well, there's. I remember that, but there were other things that were similar where I couldn't tell if it was the animation where they just chose to not show certain things. Like, things like that kind of bothered me a little bit because I'm not sure. I would love to have seen the real performance, but on that note, what really bothers me, I mentioned this briefly before,
when they put the bug inside the fruit and you didn't know how it got in the fruit.
That's true. I'd love to have seen how they got the bug in there. I was more into that. I was like,
that's a great magic trick. That's some David Blaine level stuff. Like, how did they get the bug in the fruit? Did they put the bug and then grow the fruit? Or go on.
That probably is the way. So what I miss is the actual acting in this. You can hear the voice, but we don't have any of the acting
you don't
at all.
have exactly.
I have no facial expressions. I have no none of that. Which for Troughton specifically, so much because he's so mischievous. A look that he gives, a turn of his mouth, it just gives so much of it away. Yeah, and they did some of that, but you can't. It's never going to be.
No, it's never going to be the same. And and the first couple, at least the first two, are very dialogue heavy episodes.
Yeah.
So what you get is a lot of talking, and a lot of almost still animated faces or like really clumsy movement. I'm trying to sit through that for an hour, and you're like,
yeah.
When is
where
this?
it would have been in those situations where it would have been better if it was just a still, and you're just like, that's fine.
Or if this whole thing
cut
had
back
just
and
been
forth.
an audio, if they just did an audio version of this, and your imagination could imagine sort of the characters.
Yeah, but
So that was hard.
It's fine. It's just like that is so much of the show for me is when the acting is good. That's usually what saves anything.
Yeah.
Even if the story is a little hokey, how did this thing happen? That doesn't make sense. Doesn't line
I
up.
wish this
At least
one-
the characterizations are fully realized, and that can usually save it.
I wish this one was not 6 episodes. Like
I know we went back to
episode
6.
3. How long did that chant go on about the? I think it was when they're saying
We will
their
get our power.
We will get power.
Yeah.
It goes
Over
on and on, and
and
I was at the end of that episode. I'm like, like 15 minutes after these credits, they're still talking.
Can
The
I
next
just
episode starts and it opens on them chanting. You gotta
Yes.
watch them chant
I just gotta say
again.
something. Get this
God,
off my
you
chest,
Daleks.
guys. I don't like the Daleks. I'm done. I'm done with them. I think a lot of that. I think I mentioned this actually before, especially in the new Who. They just relied on them so much. Like every other series season finale was something to do with the Daleks. It was just overdone. I'm just, for the most part, really tired of them, and it's not fair because this is one of the earlier episodes with them, so they're still establishing a lot of stuff. And in fact, there's some things they do with the Daleks here that they don't tend to do anymore. These are Daleks
They
that are
make a
actually
point of
being
saying the floor has to have a static charge. I don't remember
Yeah.
ever hearing that, and that sort of plays into the whole plot and how they
Yeah.
destroy them.
I mean, that's very specific to them.
Yeah,
but
it makes them
what I mean,
even less useful. I would think that they're so reliant on having a electrified floor.
Yeah.
With static electricity.
But the thing that actually really bothers me the most, this is just me being nitpicky, but like the fact that they just always tell each other the thing that they're there's just so much exposition between them where that's totally not necessary. And they do these things like, we will get our power over and over and over again. Why would they do that? There's no reason to say that. This back and forth that they need to, like, I need to tell you what's going to happen next, and I understand it's for the kids that are watching. It's for, just to move the story along.
Well, let me make
so
it
freaking
awesome.
annoying.
Let me just sell you on the Dalek story that you want to see, Dan.
Yes.
So in episode 4, after they keep chanting about the power supply, the Doctor shuts off the power supply, and they all like, they're all slowing down.
Yes.
And the one Dalek turns to the Doctor, and he says, turn back the power supply. Right? Mm-hmm. I misheard him as saying, Dad, instead of turn back. And then I was like, oh my God, it's a Small Wonder show. It's the Doctor, and he's raising 3 Daleks. And, like, how great would that be if it was definitely a Small Wonder thing, and they had to put wigs on the Daleks and pretend like they're just kids?
And I want Jim J. Bullock to be the wacky next-door neighbor who's sort of onto it, but not quite.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It could be a sequel to Small Wonder with that little son of a gun Jamie grown up as Jim J. Bullock.
Jim J. Bullock.
And Jim J. Bullock is no longer with us, R.I.P.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
He is, right? Is he gone?
I think he's gone. Well, he's not here right now. But we'll do it all in this animation style because we want to keep it consistent.
Yes.
So we don't actually need him.
Like
we don't
this.
actually need him. We can just do it all in animation.
Like, as soon as I saw that and he called him Dad, I was like, that's the show. It's just the Doctor trying with the wigs and like, no, it's my son or my daughter.
If you guys want to check out our Kickstarter page, we're starting a Kickstarter to actually fund this animation.
They keep moving town to town, and the Daleks just kill everyone in the town. He's like, we gotta move again. Like every episode.
That's the end of every episode.
They have to move to another town.
I'm
they
ready
can
for that
also
show.
solve mysteries. Like I'm
There's so
just
much.
saying, I'm spitballing here.
It can go from genre to genre, from episode to episode. I love it. Anyway, I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest about hating the Daleks.
You've said
I
that
don't
before.
hate them, but
I agree with you,
I'm just
especially
so
when they
tired
add
of
the
that.
thing about where the floors almost have to be metal because of the constant supply of static. It's like, well, these things are really limited to...
But they're getting around that. So I don't know if it's these specific Daleks, because then what their whole plan is to be able to store the power and generate their own. They don't need that anymore. So, and they do say that, they say over and over and over again in a chant that we are the new race of Daleks. We are the new race of Daleks. Yeah. So maybe this is an evolution of them, that now they don't need that anymore.
Speaking of that, we are the new race. So where are the mutant things inside the Daleks?
Where are they coming from?
Where are they coming from?
Where are they coming from?
How are those reproducing?
Yeah, they don't...
Because, they're getting the power and the things to build a machine that's going to make more travel machines.
Yes.
But then they're just showing them like a assembly
maybe
line
they were in the rocket ship that the capsule.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they were there.
The capsule, but the capsule
it would have been cool.
Big.
It would have been really cool had it been the colonists that they killed and they took them.
Yes.
That would have been amazing.
Right.
Guys, we're going to rewrite our own episode. Yeah, so I don't know where that was coming from, which is the reason why I wasn't sure if that was one of the reasons why I wasn't sure if this was in the original series or if this was something that was retconned into it.
What else was in the original series? Was there a semi-nude picture on the wall of one of the corkboards in the original series?
Oh, to take the art drawing class? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I took a screenshot. I was like, that's a little... There was that, too, and then there was another moment later... I think we see a TV monitor, and are they playing the opening of Doctor Who on the monitor? Like that?
It's exactly what it looked like. It was the black and white title sequence.
I'm assuming that was added by.
I thought so too. I caught that as well. I thought it was pretty awesome. If I was an animator on the show and that was my job was to just do the background stuff, I would totally do stuff like that.
Speaking of like the clumsy animation too, like do you remember the Punch Out? Like
yes.
It's just also super awkward. And at one point, they put the Doctor in jail.
Oh, we need to talk about that.
And a hand comes from off screen, and it's just like this floating hand to lock him in.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Like, you don't see the rest of the guy. You just see this hand. You're like, is that another guy? Is that like...
coming at an impossible angle? And
yeah, it's really weird. So I like the light and shadows, though. Like, it had a cool noirish look. Because I watched it in black and white. I tried watching it in color, but... I
watched it in color. I wonder if I should have watched it in black and white. I wonder if I should have.
Black and white. It just felt more
of that era,
right, of the era, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about the art style anymore. But yeah, maybe black and white would have been better. Okay, so the Doctor gets thrown in jail. How does he get out? Explain to me how he gets out.
He's using the whole, and that's the other thing. Again, this thing could have been 4 episodes. He spends an hour and a half trying to get the right frequency to open the lock.
Using the water glass, yep.
Yeah, so even before the water glass, he's using his recorder, right?
Well, he goes back and forth between the water glass and the recorder.
And then he gets water, and then he gets a pitcher of water.
To change the note.
And then I guess he'll eventually, by adding or taking away water, he'll hit the right frequency and the lock will open. That's how he gets
what I thought as well. Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay.
But that's not what happens. If you watch the episode, that's not actually what happens. Like, yeah, that's clearly what they're intending him to do is to figure out the right tone using amount of water in the water glass. He keeps doing the thing with his finger. He stops and goes back to the recorder. Has not unlocked the doors yet. Stops. Goes back to his recorder. The guard comes over. Why are you playing the recorder type thing? Like to stop him. And the other prisoner that's there beside him, forget his name.
Yeah, he's the guy who they also play up that, okay, maybe he's the bad guy.
Oh, Quinn.
In the beginning. Quinn, yeah.
So Quinn's in the cell next to him. At that point, when the Doctor's playing his recorder, Quinn's door is open. Quinn slides his door open. I'm not done yet because it gets weirder. Quinn slides his door open, karate chops the guard, knocks him out.
Right.
Then the Doctor sticks his hand out between the bars and fingers the lock.
This is a family
uses
podcast.
his finger, his wet finger, to unlock the lock. His door now opens. He's not played the recorder. He hasn't used the glass. He uses his finger to open the door. Then takes the guard into his cell, closes it, but removes the pitcher of water so that the guard can't do it. Which was it? What? And then I'm reading, because I was like, I don't actually see it happening, and I'm missing something, so I watched it a couple times. I went and read, like, what happens, and in the summary, one person says it was the recorder that actually does it. In the TARDIS.wikia article, that's what they say. And I don't buy... Anyway, guys, I'm getting all worked up over nothing.
He tries the recorder first before moving on to the
that didn't work. And then he goes and tries the water.
It didn't work, but so how... In any case.
So I wouldn't care, except, like you said, we spend 3 days
so much time
watching him do it.
Yes,
just show me it. And because it's a recreation, they can kind of do what they want. You could have actually, in the animation, been explicit and show me how did he freaking do it, because it doesn't actually line up. And... tweet at me if you guys want to tell me like I'm missing something, but I watched it a couple times.
Someone will point out that it's clear and obvious.
It made me so angry. Anyway, so
at this point too, we talked about the doctor, not the doctor, but the scientist.
Yes, Lesterson
is starting to lose his mind, and at one point he grabs a phone and he's yelling, and I'm like, that phone is not connected to anything. He's just yelling into a phone. He's lost his nerve. Like he goes from 0 to completely crazy so fast. And then he's just sort of a gibbering sort of disaster by the end of this, which
I really loved. I like how his mental breakdown starts, and at one point, I'm not sure where that. Like in episode 5 or so, they start gaslighting him and telling him like, no, you didn't see what you thought you said. They're not recreating the new ones, like that. That's great. Where he really started to crack.
Who is the the evil woman, or she's with her
Jane Lee. Well, she's not evil.
She was great. Like,
Yeah,
I would
she's
like
awesome.
to see. I don't know what actress played her.
Pamela Ann Davy is who played
Okay.
her, but I don't know anything about
Yeah,
it.
she was really good.
She was terrific. It was an interesting character
wish
too.
we could see what it was like with her actually really acting in that.
Exactly. Yeah,
this clip
she
art.
sounded great. The voice acting was fantastic.
Yeah,
and
and
it
she was
a
an
cool
interesting character too. Like, especially when
I would like to
they
have seen it,
clear the Nazi guy when he assumes power and immediately is turning against everyone. Her sort of conflict between not wanting to anger him, but then also knowing that.
And the self-preservation because she knows that he's just going to turn again.
Yeah.
It wasn't too on the nose that when he assumes power, they all change into Nazi uniforms, was it?
They all got uniforms with little icon.
It was real, real on the nose.
Well,
which is interesting because it's them.
1966. It's not that far
It's true,
before.
it's true.
You know, far
Too
after,
soon, too
rather.
soon.
It's still fresh in people's memories.
Yeah, so by the beginning of episode 4, the last half of this story, they're just straight up Nazis.
Yeah. And that's sort of been the thing with the Daleks.
With the
too.
Daleks, though, not with the people. So it was
Right, but
actually
it's a Dalek
more
story,
interesting.
but yeah. No,
it was more interesting that it was the people.
Now we get
still.
to episode 5, which I felt. I feel like I'm still watching. I feel it's going to be a hard cut, and I'm going to be back on my couch watching this on the iPad. Like, it was. I never would end. I was like, "Come on, episode 5." Like, it just kept going, and I don't even remember what happens in episode. Is episode
Well, that's
5
actually
the
so
slaughter, right?
This
That's
is when
episode 6?
episode 5 starts with Lesterson seeing the Well, episode 4 ends, and
God.
episode 5 starts with Lesterson seeing them create new Daleks, and this is when they're chanting, "We're the new race of Daleks."
This
is when the Doctor
Soundwave
escapes from the
blaster,
cell.
too, right?
That was
the
cool.
guy's got a wrench, and then the Quinn, the blonde guy, shoots like a weird sound wave thing at him.
That's what it looked
was
like,
that?
yeah. I don't know. And I don't know what that would have been in the actual show, because there were no way to do a special effect like that, so I don't know what that was. It was kind of cool.
I guess.
Yeah.
I just felt like it was... I feel like it's still happening for all of us. Like, once episode 5 ends, we end. So hopefully they'll go on forever.
So, the fact that it was a 6-episode story... there was a lot of filler, but there was a lot of story going on because you had the politics of it. You had the governor and his head of security.
We didn't even mention the governor, right? So there's an elected official supposedly who's running this colony. Yeah, I don't know how that
appointed by Earth to be the head of the colony on
Earth
Vulcan.
run.
Yeah.
So his sort of third in command in the beginning, who assumes second in command and ultimately takes over.
That's
is this
Reagan,
the security head. Like he's the head of security, right?
Yep.
Is that his proper title?
Yep.
He's sort of the horrible guy, and there's also this resistance that's building. And
what are they resisting to?
That was my question. Like, what is the? Is it just that they're being worked too much, or they're not getting paid enough? I don't think they ever
actually say what it is.
Get into why the resistance is doing.
And the whole thing is like, I don't even know, was the resistance a real thing, or was it something that was fomented by Reagan and Jane Lee and others to be able to get power? And why did they? Why did they want power? So maybe there wasn't really much of a movement, and then they kind of made it into a movement, and then co-opted it.
I wish
there was
more reason to hate to see that the governor was a bad person or whatever.
But he wasn't. I mean, the governor was okay. He was just a governor.
He was just sort of just
a bureaucrat. He was just a bureaucrat.
Yeah. So many people die in this episode. This episode is
oh my god, bodies
slaughter.
Everywhere. Bodies
Everybody
everywhere.
gets killed.
Yeah. Except for the couple with their baby. They got spared, right?
Wait, what?
There was a couple with a baby in the they were going
I don't
down.
even remember that part.
Daleks were going through and slaughtering everyone. This is like in episode 6.
This is
They're
the
just
last episode. Yeah.
Yeah. This is hour 12 of the story. They're going through and slaughtering everyone, and there's a baby crying, and there's a woman and a guy, and she's holding the baby, and the Dalek turns to kill someone else instead.
I got to keep my eyes on the screen.
There's no reason.
The whole time. Yeah.
So
well, that's good. At least that didn't happen.
So
but I know,
they're
like,
fine.
there's
Jane Lee though. She turns into like kind of kick butt at the end. She goes like full Ripley in Aliens with a gun at the end and gonna take down the Daleks.
They take the time to show the carnage too. Like there's those still shots of everyone,
bodies.
and then they focus on her face, like dead on the floor. It's pretty dark.
What was really dark was there was the guy Valmar, who was kind of like the technical guy who was like helping the Daleks put together like the wire and the relay system and everything. I think he had a thing for Jane Lee, and I don't think his thing for Jane Lee ended when she died. It got real creepy. It got real dark.
Yeah, the end is weird. Like, so we have...
the end just
we had Lesterson again.
ends.
Lesterson goes off the rails, starts talking like a Dalek, which was kind of interesting reading.
Right,
where
he said
saying,
he
like,
does.
I am your servant, whatever.
Right, I gave you life. I am your servant.
Yeah.
He's pleading for his life. He's pleading for his life slash distracting the Daleks so the Doctor can do something to try to stop them.
Yes.
So he does give his life.
But he sounds like his voice pattern and everything starts to, which was cool. The humans becoming the servants.
Yeah.
Then the Doctor overcharges the floor or whatever he does. I'm sure it's clear. I'm not sure.
Is it?
He routes all of the power right through, so it's like an over, and they all explode.
Yes.
When that happens, the music gets sort of really psychedelic and sort of, it's like start tripping out, and all the things explode in a ridiculous, over the top.
It just keeps going.
It should have been in slow motion. But then the Doctor leaves, sort of backing away as they realize the whole colony is wrecked.
Yes.
But they leave all the Dalek tech behind.
Yeah.
Now I know, like he says something like, "Oh well, they're dead, so we don't have to worry about them." But they could probably reverse engineer one of those lasers, or
all of that.
It feels like you're leaving this kind of tech in the hands of people that really can't be trusted anyway. They've already proved that to you over 18 hours of
this story.
A story. But it's weird. He just puts his hat on. It's like, all right, we're done.
But there were a couple
here.
things with this too. So I understand it's part of the story to keep it ambiguous. Did the Doctor do this by accident? Did he actually solve it by accident? Because he ended up, it was the Daleks who shot the power supply thing, trying to shoot at him, and then they kind of destroyed themselves.
It's not accident. I mean, he says it like that.
He gives a smirk,
but you know it's not.
Of course,
right?
it's great.
Yeah.
But how does the Doctor keep avoiding the blasts? Because generally,
there's no defined blast either. It's just a flash.
Totally. And that's just the way it is in all the stories.
He doesn't get killed. I had that same note.
This is how we see it. We see like the gun stock. You see the little firing thing coming out of it, and then the whole screen flashes.
And you see his dumb head at like the bottom of the screen, but somehow he doesn't.
Is he just killed. He's doing combat rolls out of the way? I guess, but no one else tries to.
It's weird. Yeah.
So that kind of bugged me a little bit. Okay, so there's that. Yes, they leave all the Dalek tech behind. Of course, at the very end, they're like, okay, let's get out of here before they send us the bill because they destroyed the entire colony. So they're heading back to the TARDIS. They pass a destroyed Dalek outside of the TARDIS. I'm like, never mind him. They're dead now. They get in the TARDIS. They dematerialize, and then the eye stalk of the Dalek, of course, lifts up.
Moves, and you're like,
oh, they're alive. Great. So if that didn't happen, that would have been like, you knew that was going to happen regardless. That's fine. How did that Dalek explode?
Slaughter everybody.
How did that Dalek explode? It was outside.
Why didn't it explode?
No, why did it?
Oh. Well, it's on the metal, right?
No, it was outside.
Come on. Dave.
Okay, so these are the things that bother me because, like, they could have done that. You had Daleks everywhere. You could have had the one in the lab, and it just, I don't know. It just seemed dumb. That bothered me. Sorry, guys. Little things bother me.
It was the explosion sent out sort of an EMP blast.
Oh, see, that's all I need.
Right?
I just need an explanation, and everything's fine.
Pulse of energy that destroyed him. But yeah, so we pretty much covered all of it.
Well, what I liked about the Daleks, I will say, is that they are not the straightforward brute force kind of Daleks that you get in a lot of the stories. This is a crafty one where they're using subterfuge in order to manipulate the humans into doing what they want. They even say at one point, "We understand humans." They were kind of saying that to imply that they will be able to serve them, but they're actually saying, like, we know how to manipulate you into doing what we need to do. So they trick them into, like, we're going to make this meteoroid tracking thing that's 100% accurate. Just give us all these materials and we'll build it for you. That was kind of cool. So I like seeing that side of the Daleks. I also like that they kind of slip a little bit as they go. Like, they're saying, we are your servants, we are your servants. Then as they're starting to get more and more ready to, like, take over, their voice kind of changes. They get more sardonic in the way that they say it, which is kind of cool. Like, they actually have some characterization to them and not just this robotic thing that's happening. So that was pretty cool. We do see this whole, like, I am your servant thing in New Who as well. There was the episode Victory of the Daleks, where it's World War II with Winston Churchill, the first time we see Churchill in the new Doctor Who, and his chief scientist thinks that he invented the Daleks as a weapon and a servant, but actually it was the other way around, and they created him, and he's a robot. So it's just kind of cool to see that idea that obviously started here, that they kind of took that and brought that into the new rebooted Who as well. that was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, all in all, it was good. We both sort of didn't love the animation.
I straight up hated the animation.
I never want to watch it again.
Yes.
That's take from that what you will. And then I think that has nothing to do with the story as much as I don't think I could sit through that.
I really like the story. I can deal with the art style as it was, and that's okay. It was the animation itself that just made me... It was so distracting and so hard to watch.
Now, to highlight our lack of research...
Yes.
Do you know why Terry Nation didn't write this one, or the next... Again, I don't even know. How many did he write up until the point that he stopped writing for Doctor Who versus other people? Is this the only Dalek story written by someone other than Terry Nation until Terry Nation is no longer writing for the show?
I hope someone responds on Twitter because I didn't check.
I could just look that up on Wikipedia.
I mean, the fact is that there were 6 before this one, and he wrote those. I don't know what happened after that, and I feel like Terry Nation does a lot more stories even after this. So... I mean, I could...
Yeah, we obviously Genesis of the Daleks that we...
Right, sure.
Covered,
so he comes back. Right. So he does the Daleks, Chimeras... Actually, I don't know that he... Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Yeah, I think he did the ones before, and then he does, like, Genesis of the Daleks, Android Invasion, Destiny of the Daleks is the last one that he does.
Right.
Yeah.
Destiny of the Daleks. Did he write Destiny of the Daleks?
Yeah.
Yes, right?
Yeah, so he wrote that one. Yep.
So, in any case, let's be done with it. What did other people think of? Do you have anything else to add?
Let's be done with it. No, I'm good. Okay.
I'm just very happy because we are going to finally return to Tom Baker soon when we do Robots of Death next. Last story that we are doing before going back to our proper schedule and saying goodbye to Tom Baker. But I know we had a few listeners.
Yeah, we got a few listener responses,
so let's
and I
hear
think
what they have to say.
For the most part, they kind of agreed with us in a lot of this. Chuck wrote to us. Hey, Chuck, how you doing? He said, let me skip some of this. He says, I love that you're tackling Power of the Daleks, and you have my sympathy. I've tried to watch this several times. For some reason, it keeps putting me to sleep. Chuck, I totally get that because it took me several tries.
The animation.
Yeah, it wasn't me falling asleep, but it took me several tries of starting the first episode over and over again until I actually was like, all right, I'm going to watch this straight through. So I get that. He says he's a fan of the older serials, mostly because of listening to our show. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
but the animated version is killing me. He says he's familiar with the style of animation, having sat through many Shout Factory, Marvel comic releases, etc. So he's used to the style, but this one did not do it for him. He says... I think the only way to truly enjoy Power of the Daleks is to ignore the visual and imagine it as a radio play. And we kind of said the same thing.
Yeah,
I would like to see a series of stills, instead, and just listen to the audio. It was fine. So thank you, Chuck, for that. That's really cool. Tim B wrote to us. He said he watched the black and white version, like Eric did, black and white version of Power of the Daleks as it played each week. He really enjoyed it and thought it was okay the way the characters were drawn, but didn't understand the strange, jerky movements of the animation. They moved like marionette puppets do when the strings get all tangled up. I couldn't agree more. It was the motion. It was the motion.
A good way of putting it.
Yeah. He said, would it have been that hard for BBC to have their legs and arms move a bit more naturally? Don't know what happened there. He does say that he thinks Polly's one of the hottest companions, even in cartoon form.
See, I was not far off...
Not bad. Tim also says that Ben is the best badass guy companion the Doctor's ever had. I actually agree. I like him as this.
Yeah, I didn't like him very much.
Ben kept wanting to go back to the TARDIS the entire time. He just wanted to leave.
Yeah, he just wanted to go home. He's like, "Why are you going to go home?"
No. That's what you should do in these situations. Like, oh, there's murder robots? Let's leave.
I don't even think you're the Doctor.
You're not even the Doctor.
He didn't talk like that, but he probably should.
He had a Cockney, and he did Cockney rhyming slang, which I thought was great. He also says he liked the way that Troughton portrayed the Doctor for the first time. He was acting like the Doctor would act if he was tripping on magic mushrooms and hadn't slept in a month. Totally agree. Though he says he did not like the recorder. Well, that's too bad because that stays. It's fine. It's quirky, but it's fine. So thank you very much, Tim B, for that one. And we also got one from our friend Steven. So Steven says, I really enjoyed this story and thought it was well paced with good acting and plenty of tension and drama. I agree 100% on that, Steven. While we've seen many Doctor Who stories about humans greedy for power and control, I liked how they used the Daleks in this story and thought it was quite unique. The Daleks for a change came across as intelligent and formidable foes who are capable of using deception and trickery, not just brute force. I said the same thing. Yeah. Maybe I got that from you. He actually says, though, that he really enjoyed the animation style. I found it a little off-putting for the first 5 to 10 minutes, but the more I watched it, the more I liked and appreciated it and felt it worked well with the classic low-budget Doctor Who style. That's actually a nice way to think about it. It's like, oh yeah, the special effects always were cheesy and low-budget, so...
Yeah, but
I know it doesn't quite work. And his last points on this was for a 6-part story, he found the episodes moved along pretty quickly, although they did rely on the plot device of having people get captured and locked up. Specifically with the women in this episode. Poor Polly. What did she really do in this episode?
She spent a lot of the time captured.
Either knocked out or tied up.
Were like literally captured with a ransom note and everything. But even totally. Then, it wasn't that much of a priority to get her out. They're like,
we'll get her eventually. I mean, the Doctor actually says some nice things about her. That she's very curious. He likes that about her. He just assumed that she was off looking for probably. Yeah,
and she also immediately knows it's him. You know,
yeah,
she knows
she gets that intuitively.
Whereas the other guy,
Ben does not.
Nope.
He says, going back to Steven's email briefly here, I thought the actor who played Lesterson was great. I loved the hamming up of the character. Agree with you on that. He liked Ben and Polly as the companions. Thought they did a good job handling the confusion over the change from the first Doctor to second Doctor. I like them standing in as audience surrogates on both sides of that, so that worked for me. He also mentioned he found it curious the Earth Examiner doesn't get a snazzy badge or credential or some other official documents. No, instead they just get a cheap-looking pin that says Vulcan Earth Examiner. Agreed.
Can go anywhere. And it's not something you could easily replicate.
Yeah.
It seems pretty
crazy.
This guy's got a button maker.
So he must be official. And then the last thing he says is... he had a couple laugh-out-loud moments. One, episode 4, when the Dalek came in holding the tray of drinks for Bragan. So I have a GIF of that I'll put up on the site because it is kind of ridiculous how the suction cup can... it just looks crazy bad. So that was pretty cool, too. Anyway, so that was great. So, guys, thank you so much for providing real-time feedback for us. That makes me so happy.
Yeah, and if you want to do that for Freesure ones, you can always email us.
Always.
And we will do the same thing. I'll read it at the end. And we mentioned before, if you can send a WAV file or MP3 or audio file, we can even play that.
That would be awesome.
Your bag.
Yeah.
So that does it for Power of the Daleks. As we said, next time we are doing, in 3 weeks from now, the Robots of Death. We're going back in the past to visit Tom Baker and Leela again, as they do one of my personal favorites, so I guess I'm playing my hand a little earlier on whether or not I like the story. Robots of Death, something I've seen before. Dan has not seen it.
Nope.
And if you have not seen it or want to see it again, please watch it and tune in to the olddoctorwhoshow.com.
So in the meantime, you guys can reach us on our Facebook page. That's where can they find us?
Facebook.com/TODWS, or on Twitter, now that Dan is running the Twitter account, at twitter.com/TODW
show.
Right.
So we got that one.
You can always Grissom for Twitter for me.
DanJNJ on Twitter for me. You can always email us at theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com and check out previous episodes, subscribe. You can even leave comments and see what's on the schedule at theolddoctorwhoshow.com. And if you just want to give us some reviews on iTunes, that makes us the happiest people in the world.
Please do some iTunes reviews.
We just need to get us above... We just need to get us above that dead podcast that has 2 episodes from 2007 that keeps Eric awake at night.
I hate that podcast.
I know.
Not only because, if it's not active, iTunes or Apple should get rid of it. As Dan said, if you go to theolddoctorwhoshow.com / click on the schedule button, you've noticed we've now color-coded our episodes by doctor. So if you have a favorite doctor, you can go right to that doctor, and we've now covered a lot of episodes.
Yep.
We also have some comments on that page, which I guess one of them was someone asked if we planned on reviewing the movie.
Oh, boy.
Which we will. So I think we'll do the movie definitely, and that is the Fox movie.
Yep.
After we finish. I'd also actually like to do the Peter Cushing movies.
I do, too. There's 2 Dalek movies.
Or whatever, but we'd like to do both of those.
I do as well. They look crazy cheesy Technicolor, and that just makes me super happy. So I want to check that out.
Why? Again, we can cover this later. But why are they so either hated or just not even talked about?
I didn't even know they existed.
The movie, they always talk about the Fox movie, but no one ever talks about those Peter Cushing movies.
I think specifically because they're not considered canon. But I don't care. I'll watch that. That sounds great.
So we'll do those. If there's any that we're not covering, and we've added a lot. We've got a lot of new stories that maybe you didn't realize we're going to cover to that page.
Yeah.
Please let us know either as a comment on that page or via email, and we will get them added.
We have a round 2 set up there where we're starting to add the additional ones. Are going to come back around to. Oh, also in streaming news, there's no streaming news, so we're still going to be doing this by a la carte if we can. So anyway,
all right. Well,
that's it.
So welcome to 2017. I hope this year
have a good
is the
one,
best
guys.
Year. Right. It'll be a good year. I feel good about it. I'm pretty positive about 2017.
Year.
We'll have Donald Trump will be the president of the United States.
Hey.
What
That's a different show. This is a completely different show.
We're going to no political talk.
None of that.
The old Doctor Who show. This is not that show.
So. All right, folks. We'll talk to you in 3 weeks.
All of a sudden, I'm strangely depressed.
I don't know where that came from.
So weird. So be good to each other. Thank you for listening to us, and please leave us a review on iTunes. I mean that. That's
cheer up Eric
we need it.
by giving him a review. Review Eric on iTunes. All right. Until next time, folks.
All right. See you, everyone.
Bye.
Cease to know or to tell or to see or to be your own. Cease to know or to tell or to see or to be your own. Have someone else's will as your own. Have someone else's will as your own. You are beautiful and you are alone. You are beautiful and you are alone.
Where's my robot? You know?